Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Buy Round podcast. Today we are taking a deep dive into the Kangaroos Ashes Series 2003, the very last time that the Aussie Kangaroos went over there for a best of three series against the English or the British. We're joined by two members of that touring squad. We've got Brett Kimmorley and Luke Ricketson. Gents, I know it's a long time ago. We've been trying to rehash those memories. What's the first thing that springs to mind when we think of that 03 Ashes tour?
I'm excited about the chance, obviously, for these guys to go back and play a three-test against England, and the excitement of it. Jimmy, as you said, it hasn't happened for 23 years, just about. But some great memories, Rico. Obviously, these guys, the Roosters, three years in a row in the grand final. So young kids coming into the Kangaroos side. I was lucky enough to be a part of that 2000 World Cup winning side in England and bits and pieces, but then obviously get the Penrith emergence and the Roosters emergence and some fresh partiers, some good people.
Yes, it was a good time. It was a good time. Well, obviously blokes like Willie Mason, and we had some really good parties. But look, my memories, and you're right, trying to sort of deep those memories back is I think we sort of did something that I'm not quite sure we thought we could have done. I mean, win three of those games. And looking back at the squad that England had back then, I mean, it was full of legendary players, and we just had a scratchy start. I mean, a lot of players had pulled out, so we all got together, and Chris Anderson, who we'll speak to about it in a minute, but like he was brand new for me in the fact that he was very old school. Billy Johnson came away as our trainer, very old school. Gave us a lot of freedom. The coaching wasn't as intense. But just wanted us to build throughout the tour and play good footy. And look, I don't know if it was great footy, but we got the job done. And so my memory is obviously winning 3-0, which was pretty good.
We might have had a little trip to Barcelona on the way to France, and it might have been, as you said, it was the worst touring side ever to go away, which was the pressure of putting on us. And Chris Anderson had got sacked from the Sharks that year as well. So my club coach, my sort of, I think the best coach I've had in my career, and who I went to Cronulla to play under. So we go to Barcelona for 3 days, and literally we'd meet at 9 a.m. every morning and go for a 30-minute jog, and we'd say, see you tomorrow. And it was sort of the get-together. I think there was a bit of soccer in the mall. Someone might have had a lizard on his shoulder for a couple of days. But I think that was the camaraderie. That was like the fun, let's get out of the stress. Players had dropped out. Legends, Freddie was no longer a Kangaroo, and Joey pulled out, and a few others. So
I think Gordon Towers had retired from rep football that year. So
it was a huge change in the guard. And as Rico said, I think Chris's greatest strength is probably being able to get people together. And I think by just going to Barcelona, literally not caring about football, it was literally like a get together and get to know each other, because you're going to have to go to war. And we won every game in the last 5 minutes of all three test matches, and it was just that probably connection we had.
When you come together and it's new faces, obviously you bond and you've got to, like you say, get to know each other a little bit. But there was some stuff bubbling up in the background. There was no Dally M's that year. The players elected to boycott, and like you say, a lot of players pulling out. It was also a rugby union World Cup here in Australia in 03. So, a lot of pressure on this Kangaroos side, especially when you consider what they achieved, the 82, 86, all these amazing touring sides that never got beat. Like, what's it like in camp? Is there a bit of you want to prove yourself, or you feel the treatment's harsh? Can you recall?
Well, looking back on it, there was, had to be a lot of pressure on it. Like, I even looking back and thinking, why was it going to be a Kangaroo year that year? It sort of came from nowhere throughout the season. We were kind of
03, they usually go in 4-year blocks.
And sort of seeing how there was boycotts issues through the year, and then to put a squad together of, it was a bunch of young kids basically, and I think what Opes did really well was pick some people he trusted. And that's the great thing about the coach, right? Looking back on that time, he went and found people that he could trust, bring Billy Johnson back, and flog us, right? So I think the main thing that we had was, okay, we're going to party hard, but we're also going to train exceptionally hard. We're going to trust you blokes. And it's kind of the way that the tour sort of panned out, really. And we got on like a house on fire. Like, it was actually like a great group of blokes. Like there was no one in between. Although we did have an incident at Villasanti.
He's not
maybe there was one that was a bit awkward. But like the Shane Webkes, for example, Petros, and like it was just a great touring party. I mean, I roomed with Robbie Kearns, and I'm an old mate of Robbie's, and we'd roomed through Origin all that year, and then we sort of said to the management, can we go back with Robbie? And I had him. It was felt like it was about a 5-month tour. But it was it was long, and we had to sort of spend a lot of time with your roomies. But we just had a good bunch of senior blokes, experienced blokes, and then these crop of young kids who were just keen to just rip and tear in every aspect. So it was a really good mix, and the coaching staff were great with us.
Noddy, can I ask you? You've experienced Chris Anderson as a club coach and as an international coach, and people talk about the differences. You, as first-hand experience, did you notice a difference in his approach?
No, I think his greatest strength, and probably the reason why he had great success, all clubs he was at, Northern and Southern Hemisphere, was probably his connection to get people together, train hard, keep it pretty simple, and make sure they're well connected. And I think the fact that he'd been over there a few years before and had a heart attack on a kangaroo coaching Australia and England as well. So I don't know what thoughts Chris had when he went back to England that time. But obviously, as I said, unfortunately, as a club coach at the Sharks in 2003, was moved on sort of middle of the season for that, and then obviously goes away and his sole focus is the Australian coaching role. And I think his greatest strength is that just he gets people together, and that's probably why he lasted as a coach a long time. It's probably like a lot of the good coaches that still are coaching now have been around for a fair while. You got good players. I remember Lockie was a star of a couple of the games, bits and pieces. I felt like I had one of my best tours sort of being away in some of those games. And then the gentleman that played outside me was Craig Gower, who probably would have got the Dally M medal that year if that wasn't boycotted. So, and then I thought I was fit, and I thought, was a pretty good trainer. There was blokes from the Roosters, Minicello, Crocker,
Shannon Hegarty.
They blew me away.
Craig Wing.
Wingy was in the centres in the games, and I just thought that drive. I think as you said, people just could get together, train hard, like each other's company. I remember thinking this bloke was the Eastern Suburbs glamour boy. Did I see you out at a nightclub one night with bubble wrap on and
mate? Maybe. I don't know. There's a few things going on, mate. Don't worry.
But it was just a good time, and I think it was the get together before we went go to Barcelona for a couple of days, then go to France. As you said, we're a bit patchy, bits and pieces, and we won all 3 games in cracking condition, in great games of football, but. Someone just stood up. It was not one person sort of won it every week for us. But, it was just like, you take your opportunity. Here's a chance to play for Australia. And we just did it. And as you said, it was the Katiki tour sort of.
Yeah, that was how Willie Mason described the beginning of the tour. And I guess results weren't exactly convincing. You got through from memory, France, England A, convincing victory against the Welsh. But in terms of like the attitude within the group, especially with that void of some of the game's biggest stars, is the connection piece what stood out then for you?
I think the connection piece is the greatest standing out from it. As you said, Lockie was a star in it. Craig Gower was on fire, bits and pieces. Shane Webke in that leadership. But I reckon, Rico, that the key was how much fun we had together, how hard we trained. Like with Billy Johnson, you don't get a chance to not train hard. And then obviously the connection of if you're going to train hard, well, then you can enjoy a drink after the game and have fun for a couple of days. Yeah. I just think it was set up. As you said, players weren't on the tour and elected to retire from rep football or make themselves unavailable. I think it was like, and also I think the greatest thing outside of winning a grand final is representing your country. Like you've got to be bloody proud of putting that Australian jersey on and not wanting to let it down and not let the people before you let it down.
Back then, was this seen above state of origin? I think now you could argue that that origin is on a bigger pedestal than the Kangaroos. But back then, was this the sense that this is the ultimate jersey, this is the ultimate prize?
Once again, if I look back at it, like obviously, I put origin first, I'd assume, I played in the in the 03 series, and it was kind of we won a series, Origin series. I thought it was the biggest and best thing I could possibly do in the game. I didn't realise the enormity of a Kangaroo tour. I think got swept up a little bit, as I said, but then we went away and we had fun for a month. But looking back on it today, like if we'd lost 3-0 against Great Britain through that period, it would have been the worst touring party of all time. And a bit of a stain in your career. Right? I would have felt pretty ordinary coming back knowing that we did that. So for us to come and do that now, obviously, look, it's one of my highlights, mate. Like definitely highlight of the career. I'm really proud of the fact that we got over and did what we did under those circumstances. And in back thinking about the squad, I mean, Darren Lockyer captained the touring party, and Lockie's a terrific bloke. He sort of took the role on with a bit of I'm going to be a bit of Andrew Johns. I'm going to be a bit of, he threw a few hats at it, and, he opened up his door to a bit of tea party stuff and wanted to have a drink. And, there's many times where Lockie never made it to certain training sessions because he'd be asleep on the couch, and we're going, mate, like you're captain of this squad. We need to go and win some test matches. And he sort of got a little bit sidetracked in trying to play the fun card of I need to be, and so that was actually quite funny for our ride in the way in for, our leader and captain of the team sort of out in nightclubs with us going, mate, we need to win some bloody test matches here, mate.
But that's what you said. And then to think about it now, like you think about what Origin is and what it's been created because of the hype we put around Origin. This is, as you said, it's been 20-odd years since Australia's played England in a 3-test series. So we've just forgot about international football. That's the hard part about it.
Yeah. I guess if it had continued on, maybe it's spoken about or looked upon differently because it has gone, it's sort of bumbled along. It's got a resurgence now, which is amazing. But there was a time there where it wasn't front and centre. It wasn't a priority for many players in the game. In fact, when I think of the origin, the series itself, yes, some great players have played for England, Great Britain, and for Australia during this time, but it's missed that, like the 3-game series has missed Cam Smith, Billy Slater, Jonathan Thurston, Paul Gallen, Sammy Thaiday, Sam Burgess, James Roby, Sam Tompkins. They all Gareth Ellis maybe played in one. I don't know, but it's missed so many stars from both groups. And from my point of view as an Englishman, we play Australia once and we're like, oh, we'd love to play him next week. But it'd be off to play somebody else. And, respectfully speaking, it's just not the same. The rivalry between England and Australia, I think, is the biggest in world sport. England's got many rivals. Was this something at all that was spoken about the rivalry, about how you're representing Australia against the old enemy with all the history that comes between the two countries?
I think, once again, we're really lucky to have Chris Anderson as part of that because he understands the history of rugby league, but also representing your country. So I felt, our leading was so clunky that, when we got to the point of going into our first test, it became real. Like we were like, we're playing against a star-studded English team. A lot of blokes hadn't played at this level or even Origin before, so it was pretty wild going into those matches. But like even for me, like looking back on that whole tradition of playing an Ashes series, like I had a lot of friends of getting up at sort of 4:35 in the morning to watch the games, right? Which I remember doing as back in the day as well. And so that to me, it's got a really good image of broadcasting the English game in the morning. So all those things running through your head leading into that. But yeah, it was. I don't think we ever sort of sat around the room and said, we know we must win. Yeah. So I don't think that's Oates' sort of way. Like he wouldn't have said, look, if you don't embarrass your country by sort of coming in running second here. But he just bowled us along, didn't he? Really well. And we sort of got together and we had enough winners in our team that we knew if we just got ourselves in a position, we'd probably win a game. But still, it was not clear that I was thinking, this is a lay down Vizier,
And I think the other thing, Jimmy, like the crowds in England are phenomenal. It's the best atmosphere you can be a part of. And as you said, like to have the kickoff of the first test where Adrian Morley knocks Robbie Kearns out, like that sets up, a stadium and a roar, and then obviously the ability that England were then winning till, as you said, the last I think 6 or so minutes. I think it was a line break and a try that we were able to steal victory. And that's basically how all 3 Test matches went. But the 20 to 25,000 fans in all 3 stadiums, the atmosphere, the Pommies. I think the Test match, the anthems get played before it, and it's just it just gives you lots of pride and lots of we've got to be at our best.
I know that the phrase gets chucked around about whinging Poms and all this palaver, but I've seen many of Aussies come over to England and first thing they talk about is it's cold, it's wet, it gets dark pretty quickly. Was there, and especially leaving Australia in sort of early October, it's this time of year now, it's beautiful, plenty of sunscreen, you're in your shorts, and some of us would put tops on, others wouldn't. Mate. Maybe back in them days with different kettle of fish. But was there any sort of chat around the conditions as well? Because it is different to go from a dry track to a wet track. It's completely different.
I suppose I'd never toured like that before, right? And I know that I reckon probably 90% of that group hadn't been on a long tour. And what was great, players that have been there before, was good for us to have around. But, we're out of Leeds for most of it. I forget the name of the hotel, but we're in the main centre of Leeds. Yeah. And, they're long weeks, right? Because, you're 2 or 3 weeks out training all the way through, picking grounds everywhere to try and do as much fitness as we can. And a lot of sitting around cafes around Leeds, so very different to being in Australia. But it was, I think we had enough senior guys around that group to sort of kind of get ourselves right for those first games. But we didn't know what to expect. Well, I didn't know what to expect that first Test match. You're right, with the crowds coming down, walking down those tunnels, to see my teammates sitting over there just basically white-faced, literally 15 metres in front of everyone else, coming down and just got grubby curds on the wrong. Well, it's sort of like...
we are going to get to that. I promise you we are going to get to that.
Then I went, I think I'm in a Test match. I've just realised what's happening here.
We will get to that. I just want to quickly just go back to the build-up to the camp and, the Kentucky tour mention. Who's the big influences? You mentioned Lockyer. I've met Willie Mason and I've met Shane Webke. And mate, they're playing the same position, but they're chalk and cheese. They're so different from one another. Who's the big camp influences, and who's leading the charge? Who's best on ground as well? This is what we really want to know. We know.
Cheers, we had a mix. Well, we had, as I said, the energy of the minis. Danny Badiris was great too. He's that little Newcastle clique are quite fun. Yeah. Steve Simpson was there also. We had obviously Craig Fitzgibbon. I forgot to mention about being fit earlier. So we had, I reckon there was about 6 Roosters and those young Panthers as well. Big Trent Waterhouse was there. Obviously Craig Gower. I mean, Craig Gower's a larrikin, but tough as nails. We had squoons of personalities in this squad. I mean, it wasn't just made up of one group of people. So, Willie was certainly had his time. I couldn't tell you the most standout larrikin in the group, but mate, it was a mix. It was definitely a mix.
Right. It always fascinates me about team dynamics, and especially now, because it's hard to believe that within this time frame, just how everyday life and modern society has changed with the introduction of smartphones. That weren't a thing back then. And I think it makes connection easier and, more importantly, better. Because a team bus ride, for instance, to an airport isn't earphones in and you're checking your socials. We've got to entertain ourselves here, and we've got to start conversations with the person next to us. Where now a lot of team buses would be dead silent.
There's a couple of those good tours went on. I reckon there was buses set up with the basically four card tables, and obviously you always generally had a sponsor of a alcohol brand would be certainly very supportive of following the Kangaroos around and making sure there was some eskies on the bus and that. But as you said, I think if I think about, you got Webby Webby is that old dog that was I get the double bed, you go get me food, you make my cup of tea, like the old school, and then you get the young pups coming in, as you said, Mace and the young Panthers. I had Luke Lewis as a roomie. He'd never left Penrith.
Joel Clinton.
Joel Clinton was room with Shane Webke.
That's right.
And basically, it was like I'm the senior person. I've got the double bed. You make me a cup of tea, and all. Webby taught him the old school way of seniority, or all that type of stuff. But I remember just the larrikins, as you said, there was just different mixings and bits and pieces.
I remember, funny enough, going down to one of our first drinks in. It might have been in London, and just seeing Webby in a pair of like Aussie footy shorts and a singlet, and a pair of double plugger thongs. That was his day wear, going out for a bit of a stroll. And then you obviously had a couple of the cooler cats who were in the funkier clothing. And I said, mate, this is just the most oddest group, and all these newbies coming through. But he didn't give a shit, Like, I mean, Webby's Webby, and like the way he trained and the way he approached his footy and the way, and look. There's stories about people being a little bit tight on tour and sort of thing. Webby was one of those, like, so when the free beer was on, he was the first and last to leave that sort of part. Look, it was just no phones, go and have fun. Coaching staff are very liberal with us when it came to that, as long as we turned up the training in good shape and got it done.
Yeah, it makes me think now, when we know how important connection is to groups, like whether or not but then again, it's like should it be organic? Should it be policed? Like just like no phones on the bus, no phones in the team room, no phones in the locker room. Like you've got your time. Like we're here together. Like let's make the most of it, because it's clear with what you've both spoken about is at the beginning there's a bit of everyone's maybe a bit apprehensive and a bit unsure, but then we get together and it's like we're all best mates again. And I think if phones were there, you just it's an easier way to pull back.
The other thing is when you go away in a rep side, like obviously it's an honour to get picked and get selected, but you're going away with people you played the last 25 weeks against. Like most, you got a few from your like if you're lucky enough to have 3 or 4 or 5 from your team, you're blessed because you've got a bit of a connection with them. But everyone else you're playing against, it's you're either playing against them for the rest of the year. You might have won or lost the grand final against them, or a semi-final, or if you're playing for New South Wales, you're playing against Queensland.
Yeah.
So you've got to put all that rivalry aside and bits and pieces and go, you know what, we're here to play for Australia. Let's just rip in.
Yeah. First test, right? Mood in the camp, going out, a little bit of the unknown, but then 10 seconds in, Luke, I'm going to come to you. You've got your roommate, Robbie Cairns, and your teammate Adrian Morley. What can you remember from this? I can remember as a fan just being like, "Oh my God, what has happened?"
I think that's
here?
what I said too. I was pretty close to it, and like first and foremost, if I go back to Moz, right? So Moz is like a big kid anywhere, right? And I was communicating with Moz anyway. Like we speak quite often, so I was talking to him through the week and everything like that. And that's the great thing about him. Like I mean, Adrian Morley is that type of guy that until he crosses the stripe, that's when he can turn into big physical angry Moz. But prior to that, he's the loveliest bloke in the world, right? So we sort of go into. I didn't speak to him a couple of days going to the first Test match, and then. I don't know. I remember standing there looking at the kickoff, and I remember I could see him pacing to that typical Moz look when I thought he starts to get a little bit twitchy. Kickoff, and I was watching the ball and then turned around and, mate, when Robbie hit the deck, Moz was 15 metres in front of everyone else, and I think he was in shock as well. I mean, poor Moz was like, he knew exactly what he'd done. And we all raced up the referee and said, you've got to send him off. You've got to send him off. And I think I was yelling at the ref too. I said, get rid of him, mate. He's got to go, hopefully.
But this was a time when I guess punching was almost an accepted part
it was okay.
of the game.
Yeah, sure.
The first instinct wasn't, I'm going to get this pommy bastard.
You've looked at it. If I look back at it, I think we all just went to the ref. I didn't go to Moz.
Is that because of the reputation that he'd earned over in Australia?
I don't know. I reckon Webby in that wouldn't have been fearful of it. I don't think there was a fear factor of it. I just think the incident itself was kind of just so shocking, and it kind of happened so quickly. I don't think anyone was going to race over. I think we all said a few things on the field, but there was no means anyone going to box on. I don't think.
It was probably just the craziness of you do a kick
almost
off,
in shock.
aren't you?
Yeah, I think if it was like a big elbow coming down or a kind of he just kind of typical Moz just had that reaching to put his shoulder in and clipped him. I think it was
Too
a
fast.
circumstance.
He was too
more than-
fast.
Yeah.
He was
went
too
quick.
he was
and
too-
Robbie just
he was
moved.
too fast.
It was just a crazy play, and I think even when he went off, you could tell he went straight in the sheds, and we can even post we all went and saw him, and he went and apologised to Robbie and all that kind of stuff.
Were you surprised he got sent off?
Did you not see it?
No, well, I did,
Yeah.
but in
Test
10 seconds into a test match,
I don't think he got any weeks.
he didn't. He got a $2,000 fine. And
That was the 2000, yeah. So he didn't get any.
He played week 2.
Yes.
But
But I think he was a bit gun shy from all that, and obviously I don't think he got the best of Moz. Post that. Yeah, no one ran in. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think there was a bit of a. Yeah, I think it was just a bit shocking, but I don't feel as though anyone was thinking. And looking back at the pre-game, I don't think we all sat as a group and said, Adrian Morley, someone's got to get hold of him.
Yeah.
I just don't think that was Opes' coaching style. Like if it was Ricky Stewart or one of these, I reckon we would have sat there and said, let's intimidate some blokes. But his coaching style wasn't about that.
No.
You know, I think he was let's be physical and strong, but I just don't think we went into an attitude of we're going to brawl and fight our way through. If anything happened, I'm assuming there would have been. But I just felt like it wasn't that we weren't wound up. Is that the way he
And
coached?
a lot of how Chris coached, and again being with him at Melbourne, Cronulla, and then as you said, on this Australian side, but a lot of it paid no reference to even who the opposition were. It was all about getting your own team in order, getting that connection, doing our job. What's our role? Who's doing what? And all that type of makeup, and then that way you feel comfortable and. You're not chasing the person on the opposite side and you're so distracted with, you've got Adrian Morley's this, Adrian Morley's that. For a lot of success I had with under Opes, we literally didn't give a stuff about who we were playing against. It was like, we'll do our job and we'll get it right and our job will be good enough to beat them.
Can you recall, obviously, Moz goes, but then Noddy used the 7, playing 13 on 12 for basically the whole game.
And I watched a bit of it the other day. I went and sort of, as you said, kind of think back to all this type of stuff. I watched some highlights and bits and pieces, and they were outstanding as well.
Well, I think England were 18-14 up with 10 minutes to go.
Wow.
Like with 12 players.
Yeah. And as you said, JJB Stadium, I think it was, wasn't it? Wigan there.
Wigan,
And I looked at some of the names, as you said, that on that England side as well, and I was like, wow, these guys are absolutely legends and classy players. But as you said, it was just, I think the ability to just stay connected and someone would win a game for us. I think.
Well, I think his coaching style was basically to them and through them kind of thing. You just push up and push up. So, I don't think we ever, you would have had to do most of the communication as a halfback and work with your 5'8", but it was pretty much stay on your edge and just push up and push up and push up. And I think the way we ended up playing better by game 3 was the fact that that's all we sort of did, regardless of who was in front of us. It wasn't too much strategy, kick and chase and just be trying to outlast and be as fit as we possibly could. And those grounds were a bit slippery on the edge and, we made quite a few mistakes. But we just hung in there. I think we just had the ability to hang in there. And that's all we kind of really did, particularly that first game. And that was the one we went, mate, that could have got away. If they win that game,
with 12 players,
we're in all sorts. And I just would have hate to have felt the pressure of that. We never actually got, because we did well, we never got the pressure of, shit, we need to win this game.
I reckon there was always, and because they were so good that first game, we just stole the victory late. There was that air of excitement too for the second test. It was like, if they get 13 on 13 for the full game. We should win this. And again, they led game 2 as well.
Yeah.
And game 3, so, I thought, as you said, there was just little moments and opportunities, I remember Wingy made a bit of a line break. I think Gowie set up a try. I think I was a try. Fitzy was unbelievable in all 3 tests. Goal kicking as well. scoring tries in goal, kicking bits and pieces. But, it's we go Test match football. It's like there should be good players.
That should be a competition to the wire. And can I ask you, why do you think Australia got all 3 victories in the last 10 minutes? Because I think I looked back, and I think Mal Meninga was quoted, I could be wrong, about how that's the difference between the NRL and the Super League, and maybe perhaps the advantage of Origin. You get to play in those contests on an annual basis, which then gets you prepared better against opposition that maybe don't quite get that level of intensity week to week and in the middle of the season.
Yeah, look, I think there was just a bit of class. I mean, Darren Lockyer was amazing, obviously, and Noddy was fantastic. I think there was just that bit of extra class. I think, even referring to the Broncos this year, right? It was almost like we had to chase a few things and we had to get it done with 5 or 10 minutes to go. Intensity went up and we had the ability. We were fit and strong enough to actually get him in a right position and just get the ball to the right people. And look, there was I read a bit about that, about England sort of not having the intensity in their game to finalise a win. But I just think that we just had that ability to turn it up with 10 or 15 to go and just get the job done. And it didn't matter if it was 1 point or 2 points or 4. And that's all it was at the end of those games.
I think at that time there was only Morley that would have been playing in the NRL who was playing
it sounds about right.
in the British side. Just quickly back on game 1. Another teammate of yours decided to start mixing it up. Was it Crocker and Brian Carney had a little bit of a set to as well?
Oh, I saw something. Yeah, Croc just loved it. Yeah, he just had an excuse to try and throw a punch for no particular reason. A winger, he picked a winger.
Not Moz.
Not Moz, yeah.
Must have been off then. Well, he obviously was. Obviously he was off.
Yeah, so he goes picking on wingers. But once again, all the little goers wearing that jumper, right? They were just... ready to put him. But I just think it was that little bit of class we had in that team. Yeah. We were very fortunate. I think if some of those senior good players didn't come away in that tour, I reckon if there was 1 or 2 other players that dropped out, we'd probably lose some test matches. It would have been heartbreaking to go over there and not come back with the victories.
Going into the second test, can you recall, obviously you've won the game, but you've had the numerical advantage. Was there... you sort of briefly touched on it before, like, oh, shit, there's a realisation that this team can play. Because I guess there's that, sometimes within Australia, it's seen as just, the English is a inferior comp and we'll get an easy victory. But was it a bit of a wake-up call maybe, perhaps, for those that didn't quite know what the English comp was going to be about?
I think it was a good opportunity, as you said, because the excitement of the first test, with the fact that I had 12 against 13 and we'd only just got the job done. And I reckon for us, it was more of we've got to get better. And we'd actually got that belief and we won the game. And as you said, Moz might have been the only person that had been in Australia, so people probably didn't know who a lot of the Pommies were in that regard. So obviously I played against Sean Long. Sean Long was the half I was up against, and he was a wonderful player and a legend of the English competition. And a lot of them never come to Australia, but I reckon it just meant that because we won the first one late, it was either that belief we're got to be better because they're going to get better, but it was also, I think, belief that we could win from every scenario. So there was never any stress or any pressure. And as you said, when we get down to the last 5 or 10 minutes, it was no different to the start of the game where we're like, oh, we'll be right. We'll win. We'll somehow find a way to win. It's just, and again, you look around the room. Lockie was our captain, and we'd just come up with things. Craig Gower, as I said, back rowers, Rick. There was just a good mixture of
and I think
fun and enjoyment.
I think what I remember too after it, right, because we celebrated that first win, right? So, everyone's hungover on Sunday, and which once again, mate, the whole coaching staff are more than happy for you to do that. I think we had a couple of beers on Sunday as well, right? We just made sure of it. So then,
just to take the edge,
just to make sure of it. And then, I remember Billy Johnson said, right, so he was big on stretching and yoga and different sort of things. He said, right, we're going to put on some extra sessions throughout the week. So we've got a run. He had a run, like a 3K run. He had as an extra session. And we had blokes can do stretching. You need to come do stretching. Yeah. So you'd finger point a few people. So, mate, I think his intensity on it, I remember his intensity on me. I think when he first got into camp, he said, "I'm going to get these roosters, these cafe latte roosters, and sort them out." I remember him going and picking on us a bit, and we all went, "Let's go! This will be fun, right?" So I think he had that. A couple of Penrith young kids. I'm going to show them what getting fit's all about. But we were so fit anyway. So whatever he threw at us, we did. But we did extra sessions leading into that second test, and we were flying. We felt great. I think the confidence of doing that. But another funny thing about Billy, I remember him going, "Guys, if we win the second test, we secure it, right? So we basically win the Ashes series." So he said, "I'm going to put on a beach party after the second test." So he said,
Hull.
No, back in Leeds.
Well, I mean, beach party in Leeds.
Well, and a strange
I can't recall. I was like, Hull. I mean, you have to go Scarborough maybe, but no. Okay,
no.
So you've gone back to Leeds for a beach party.
Well, that's where we were sort of staying anyway, right? So we said, if we win what we'll do is got a few senior blokes together and said, "Mate, we need to make it fun," sort of thing. We win the second test, mate. We've got an venue already picked out. So we were in the back of our mind, mate, we're going to have a cracking, night if we win the second test. So that was another little bit of inspiration for us to get this next one done, and then it's pretty much over and done with, and we're just going to party for 3 days. And we partied for 4 days.
I was going to say, you did get the win. What then follows?
Well, I recall that week going into that third test. We had a massive Saturday night at our beach party. And I remember Mal Meninga turning up with his touring party, brought all the touring parties in. So there was just all Aussies everywhere, and we had a heap of fun. And then, Sunday was a big drink-a-thon. Actually, the party was on the Sunday.
Beach party was the Sunday.
So we all got out on the Saturday.
Pubs.
The beach party's on the Sunday. It was a lunchtime kickoff, right? And that continued, and we went out on Monday night in Leeds. I can't even remember the venues, but you might know any of those spots, do you, Jimmy?
It's been a while.
Okay. And I think we had another night out on the Tuesday night.
Majestic's nightclub, I think it was. It was just across the road.
And I remember us getting a bit of about the Wednesday. Mate, we've got to get you on the rowing machine, go for a run. Let's sweat this out, right? We need to get you guys moving because we've got another test match. And I remember going into that last test match, the press was like, "We're coming for redemption. English need to win this last game. Bit of respect, we're coming for you," kind of thing. We're all going to... We were hungover, I think, until about Thursday, going, a few of us got the flu and, sore throats, and we put in maybe 1 or 2 quick sessions in and going to the third test. So it was like that, and that was the great thing about Opes. Opes was like, "Mate, just get the job done for us, and we got a lot of fun on the way through." But
Well, I think as well, Darren Smith came into camp
late,
very late, because he was playing at St Helens at the time. So obviously a few wounded soldiers from the partying.
Well, no, he...
or was there actually legit?
It was a legit, yeah. He pulled him straight in, And once again, mate, Chris Anderson trusted people, right? He said, "You can do a job for me. I'm getting him in." It didn't really, he consulted obviously the senior guys and said, "Mate, straight in." So...
Webby had a person, obviously, that was equally as tight as him as well. So probably made him feel good as well.
Perfect. I want to ask you, mate, you got man of the match in that second test. It's a pretty big honour.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the number 7 jersey of Australia. Like the pressure that comes in any 7 jersey, but you think of some of the greats that have worn that before. John's not in the picture. Did that make you feel proud to represent and get that man of the match?
Yeah, I reckon that tour for myself was probably the best 3 games I probably played for Australia. If I think back to the World Cup in 2000, we obviously won that. And I was the halfback in that game. Joey was playing off the bench in the 2000 squad. Freddie was the 5'8". But I think and Lockie was the fullback. So I think when I watched the 3 matches the other day, just to have a look and recap again, I think, as you said, that second game was probably the best individual performance maybe I had. I scored a try that got us close to being level, kicked a field goal, and as you said, you got the number 7 on for Australia. But I just thought it was a huge honour to be selected to play for your country, but also then, the simplicity of when you're playing for your country. You've got the best players around you as well. So it makes your job easier, So it's not like it makes it harder because you tell people where to run and what to do and what to play and all that. They just get it done. You don't have to tell them twice, So I think my ability to be able to just worry about myself, and as you said, and with Chris, and I know his style and played a lot of that flat and fast and over the advantage line and in your face, and these guys, the Panthers and the Roosters crew, I think brought in that fitness and the superior fitness. So I think we're always on that front foot, always going forward. But yeah, I reckon if I think about the 03 and the 3 matches, I think I felt like in my performance it was great honour, as you said, and then to get me in the match in that second test was and again that second test which guaranteed the victory, guaranteed the 2-0 win.
It's an interesting perspective you have there around how like your job as the half became easy because you've got better players around you.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's really insightful. But then for the beach party, you're man of the match.
No, Joey. No.
You didn't get the double up?
No medal or nothing around the neck or anything to make accolade that had it. But no, it was. I remember the beach party. It was crazy. It was like you had second floor of one of these pubs that we'd regularly visited, and it was like literally we threw sand on the floor or mucked around to have sand on the floor, and you had to wear board shorts and all this type of stuff. So. As you said, that was a good fun time, and I reckon your crew, like obviously the Roosters crew and the young Panthers boys, and as you said, the tea parties that Lockie was involved in,
classic.
It was just another good part of the trip. Like it was that connection and fun and get together. And
I look back on it, and once again we sort of covered up early. Like for them to put this squad together and to see it sort of evolve over that period of time. And the success is a major part of that. But we all, even the style of footy and the way that we sort of connected through that tour was unreal. And to have gone and won those games, it's just icing on the cake.
You win the series 3-0, despite England putting their best efforts into that last game. Post game, I'm assuming another big rip in. Be rude not to. Like every Aussie, they go to church. Was it anything like that happening?
I remember going to that last game, and as I said, there's a lot of. That was the first one I felt pressure on. I think like the English media and the English footy team had got together and said, we're going to win this last Test match. We want to take this one out and not be embarrassed. And we'd had a week of just playing up, right? So, most of us. Probably not as much as well. But
hey, one in all.
And I remember like getting to Thursday and Friday going, mate, we sort of had I had to come more time on the roll just to get myself ready for it. And then, mate, that last Test match, and I don't know if you remember, but Noddy kind of like within 10 seconds to go, gets the ball off the deck and off to Lockie, and then I fortunately was on the end of that, and we scored to win the Test match. So that was on the full-time hooter. It was like one of those greatest ever moments for me personally to be that guy that scored that try. And I remember going back and looking to all the boys going, where are we going tonight? What's the next 2 days look like now? And like knowing that basically we stopped on about Thursday partying and now we've just gone and done that, won that. And it was kind of dead silence around the ground. It was just one of those amazing moments that we got that last try done, and it was huge.
Did anyone stay on after, or it was just all go home together, or how did that work? How did it dismantle?
I don't know. I stayed on. Yeah. So we had a group of us that went to a little place called Amsterdam.
Ah, I've heard of that.
Nice cafes.
Yeah.
So funny story. So there was like Lockie, Danny Badiris, Fitzy, myself, Wingy, Minnie, and Adrian Morley.
Oh, he came along.
So Moz came. I think Moz brought one of his funny mates from Salford somewhere. He come and crashed in our room for a couple of days, and we decided to have 5 days in Amsterdam just to really make sure that we finished off the tour.
Yeah, just to recap.
But it's actually really good about that, and like obviously we came home, and then sort of through January, Bedsy, Lockie. Perhaps the Roosters, but we all caught up again in January or something in February. Lockie come and stayed at my place for a couple of days, and because I think it was just there was this friendship that bonded through it that we wanted to keep spending time with each other, right? And that's that's the secret sauce of footy, right? Yeah. If you want to spend time with somebody, then you're going to get something out of it. So, I tried to get him to the Roosters, that didn't work, Lockie. Paper bags, but it was just kind of this. We just wanted to continue having fun. That's how I felt the tour was. We just had so much fun the success followed, and I didn't want it to stop at the end. Like, don't make this stop.
Can you remember much of the end? Noddy, you just...
No, I just think, the enjoyment of winning the three test matches, as you said, unbelievable. And again, it's an amazing time to go to England as a player. You're multiple times been over there, but you get, from Tuesday afternoon onwards, you sort of, okay, test team gets announced. It's now time to get serious. Who's in the side? Who's the emu? Who's Billy dragging to the pub and can't let him go home until Billy goes home. And then it's like, well, I'm not going home yet. I might have a few more. But then he gets you up at 7 a.m. and flogs you. So it's just a great couple of weeks, actually.
Just to explain to our audience who don't quite know the emu concept, that's the players who aren't in the 17, correct?
So basically, I'd been on multiple tours I'd been a part of. I'd been an emu and I'd been a test player. So obviously Tuesday they announced the test side, and as of Tuesday the test side would prepare to play football. And if you're an emu, which is outside of the 17 that get named on the Tuesday, you're still training full time with them, but obviously you become an emu, and your generally recall would be at 8 p.m. every night. You'd be meeting someone down the bar and going out for drinks and hanging out, and then you got to pull up and be professional for training, and then you get flogged on a Friday afternoon and getting ready for the Saturday game, and then obviously you have a big Friday night. The test matches would be Saturday, so then you're pretty cooked by the end of the week. And then all the boys who would win the test match would be like, let's go, let's get excited. So it was a huge roller coaster of hard work. And I'd had Billy Johnson on multiple tours. He's just so dry, Billy, but hard,
and
terrifying.
It's his responsibility to make sure.
It was his responsibility to say, hey, you're coming out with me. And he would go out to a certain time where, where you just get to that point where you're like, I'm not going home yet. But he'd be like, I'm going home, see you at 7 in the morning and do your extras. So I think, that was the fun part of Billy, I suppose, how dry and how tough he was and but also how much fun he made. And again, if you're not playing test matches, you have a bit of fun.
Very, very important that, because you've got the best players in their clubs that come together. I always found that was the hardest part of playing for England or Great Britain, the players who weren't playing and managing them, how the staff treated and managed them. Some went super serious. You got to prepare to play just in case. Some were very much more relaxed. You mentioned at the start about being bonded, and maybe one that wasn't. Post camp, there was allegations of theft. What was it from? Was it Villasanti that it was cheating?
Might have been some money go missing out of the hotel in London. I think it was, wasn't it? I think we had a couple of days in London.
It was interesting because I don't know how much we can talk about it. We can talk about it on your podcast. That's fine.
Go for it. Yeah.
Look. The funny thing was, I roomed with Robbie Kearns and Shane Webke. There was a few people that had money taken, because you'd get your little
you get your allowance. You get your allowance. Yeah.
So what would happen? You'd get a little envelope, and you might make it almost £150 a week. That's about £200 a week. Something like that. Anyway, you sit there and, sometimes you spend it, sometimes you don't. But, mate, I was pretty loose with mine. I was going back to the ATM quite a few times. But, money was going missing, and there was things going missing. And a few of the guys got together and said, mate, I feel like there's something's going wrong. I think the staff are pinching all our cash. And then... So we got there's a proper detective came in and
oh really?
Yeah, we did it all properly, and then there was setups in all the rooms, cameras in the rooms, and they determined
that's dangerous.
Look, yeah, it was very dangerous. They got turned off at 9:00 at night. That's when the theft happened. No, but look, it felt like there was a little bit, and I will say was a bit inconclusive. I don't know whether or not he got booted off tour or anything like that. It was just kind of there was a bit of a gut feeling around it, and
it was
disappointing. It was disappointing because it was such a good group, and we had this thing over our heads a little bit. There was a bit of stuff going on. I had a roomie that was pretty upset about it. There was a couple of forwards that were like, mate, no good. We need to sort this out. And look, I didn't lose anything. I probably was spending my money really quickly. So I felt it was a little bit inconclusive for me, but yet again, we sort of branded him the guy on tour that was doing it, and he was never to tour again. Basically,
I think it probably tarnished his name a little bit. And I remember, now remembering back to the end of the games, like he was sort of pretty distant from the group by the last test. It was pretty much just bits and pieces. So that was, as you said, and I think that's when it's hard in a footy team that had so much trust and fun together that then you start going, well, hang on, someone's pinching. And as you said, you just leave it in the hotel. You'd leave your money in on your desk in the room, and I think you're safe.
Think nothing,
nothing of it. Like,
and he had an out of the box year, right? So he was this big firebrand. He was actually a pretty good selection to have, right? We're going to put the Moz, right? He could have been a guy that could have ripped and teared and done a bit of damage, right? So it just got away. It just never gelled for him. Unfortunately, he didn't play a test match, did he? I don't think he played any.
I don't think he got selected any of them. So then I think it was he was just
moping around the hotel or something. So
as you said about trying to keep people connected, and he would have been if anyone of that group was probably never connected. It was probably him in some regards, and then was rumored to have been doing that, and then that was his breakout year as well. Like at the Warriors, it was unbelievable.
But I don't know if he did. So I'm pretty much. I sat on the fence in it because, mate, I nothing happened to me. So I felt like I don't know.
I think it might have even been. I think this might have been a tour that we actually went and played the Belfry at the golf course at the end of it as well.
You'd have been happy with that.
I would have very happy with it. The gold Rolex sitting on top of the clubhouse and that. I think it was a tough turn up after winning a game, winning a test match, and then having the drink, and then it might have been turn up and go and play golf at the Belfry.
That's your excuse for not hitting a good round.
I remember it was an unbelievable golf course, but I just come back to my.
You think?
I think I remember the golf course, and obviously I've been a golf tragic, and then the fact that they'd hosted the Ryder Cup and all the history of it all. But I think it was a couple of coaching members and a couple of the players, and and myself went and did that as well. So Rico's probably up there. Rico's. Not that you weren't a golfer, were you?
No, I'm a golfer now. I had more important things to do over there, mate, than play golf. There's a lot of bit more partying and fun.
Yeah,
I made the most of my time in England.
So fast forward over 2 decades, like we say, that so many star players from both sides of the world miss out, but we're back again for more. Is this something that you'd like to see a permanent fixture every 4 years on the international calendar?
I think it has to be. I think that's why international football, and I think we're talking about Pacificas and everything else. Like we've got to create the game, don't we? Hopefully that what we've created State of Origin to become, it's the biggest talked about event in our game at the moment because of what goes into it and what the game puts into it. So I think if we want Test football to be important, we've got to grow it. So I remember being that young kid sitting there on a Sunday afternoon watching Test matches against, or Saturday 2 a.m. or something. Or it was get up early as a kid. So I think the Kangaroo tours and the excitement of Australia versus England, Australia versus Great Britain, whatever it is, it should be on the calendar. And the players, as you said, 22 years.
Yeah,
22 years this hasn't happened for, and we talk about the fun and the mateship and what you get out of it, and the fact you get to wear that Australian jersey.
Yeah, if I was a young kid in the game now, it would be on my radar. Like, I know a few people may have got other things happening at the back end of the year, but a Kangaroo tour is probably the most fun you could ever have. It has to happen more often. You've got to get that together. I think the English game's improved out of sight, as you know, Jimmy. Like, I think it's, I looked at their squad the other day, and I feel like they've got a really strong, young, mobile sort of footy team. We were fortunate when we went. We were that mobile sort of fit sort of team. The English team probably wasn't as conditioned as we were. So maybe this might be a really fast, quick, exciting 3 Test matches. And if England can pinch one, then mate, it's exciting. And once again, I think the appetite for footy at the moment. Like I watched the Papua New Guinea game yesterday because I just wanted more footy.
Yeah,
I'm not finished with a year of watching football. So to get these matches up and running, I'll be up watching them for sure.
What about the English? You're an Englishman. What would the English people be thinking about this Test match? Is this something that they would want to see on the calendar again?
Oh, my
regular?
goodness me. Absolutely. Yeah. So Hill Dickinson in Liverpool sold out. Headingley sold out. Wembley tracking along really well. There's such a huge appetite to see England win, but also credit to the Australians like Reece Walsh, Nathan Cleary, Cam Munster, Harry Grant, Tino Fasuamala-Awe, Mark Nwangani-Tuase. You get to see these players live. So due to the ease to actually view the NRL and almost every game now, you've got these nailed-on, hardcore British Rugby League fans that also are watching almost every NRL game. So for them, the opportunity to see them live is a big deal. but we'll be supporting England. And, you know, it's up to the likes of Jack Wellsby, maybe George Williams, Mikey Lewis, who's had a fantastic year, Jake Connor, who's the current Man of Steel, to almost put those reputations to the side and look at this last time it was out there. It gets won in the last 10 minutes. So if you start to think about that, well, we've got to be better in the last 10. That's what we've got to do. England, last time in the World Cup final, Australia 6-0, and it was an ankle tap. That if Josh Dugan doesn't get Cal Watkins, I think we score, and 6-6, and I'm backing us.
Yeah, I don't think Australia takes this lightly. I honestly think the game is set up for them. And then, I mean, looking at the way that Penrith play is different to how the Broncos play. And as we said, we got into camp and just had one simple plan. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how they play their footy. And it could be pretty clunky if they don't get it right. And the English games, it's quick, and there's some fantastic players. So, they don't get it done, Notty. We've done it, mate. So,
we can just say
if you can't win a test match.
What have these blokes done?
What have they done?
Premierships, they don't win Kangaroos. And we got the World Cup next year. So even for everyone, like if England go really good in this 3-test series, then obviously there's that air of excitement. Then of we can't wait for next year now. We can't wait for the World Cup to go. And I think I'm almost a fan, as you said, the semi-finals this year in the NRL were unbelievable. Semi-finals, grand final. You just can't wait for more football.
Well, that's it. This week has been a bit of a struggle. It's like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Let's get the football back on. Let's extend none of this
watching
player
Bathurst.
None of this player welfare nonsense. Just extend the season. Just keep on giving it to us. But gents, been an absolute pleasure here discussing the 03 Kangaroos, the last time out. Thank you so much, Luke Ricketson and Brett Kimmorley.
Thanks, Jimmy.